Hello everyone, this is Venom, and today I'm here to talk about Destiny Rising, the quote-unquote Destiny mobile game that is supposedly right now getting created by NetEase, the same people that made Diablo Immortal. Now, I don't think it's ever a good sign when an IP that people love is turned into a mobile game. It's clearly a cash grab, and oftentimes you can kind of tell what's going on with the company or what the CEO or the executive mindset is when you see something like this. I guarantee that if people knew that this mobile game was being developed, a couple years ago, especially in, say, the Lightfall era, that we probably would have had a lot of big changes wait for it. And I don't think Lightfall would have sold nearly as well as it did, and I think Final Shape would have sold even less because let's be honest. I know I'm not the only person that thinks this, but I've got literally, and I mean probably less than zero interest in a Destiny mobile game. And when I say less than zero, I mean this is a mark against Bungie. It's not even something that I'm just ambivalent toward. I mean, this is a clear mark against Bungie. Now, I understand they're not developing it. It's a deal that was set up by NetEase, but it's all still under the same umbrella for me. So I've got no desire whatsoever for a Destiny mobile game, but let's go ahead and take a look at what we're getting right now. This is an article from Forbes. This is from Paul Tassi, and I'm just going to hit up the highlights here. And it says, Destiny Rising is years old, and yes, it's still going to be released despite all the turmoil at Bungie. Now, this has been being developed for a long time now, and even with everything going on at Bungie, they're still going to go ahead and release it. I personally think it's a bad idea. Although it could be a situation now to where they're basically just chasing bad money with good. They're already too deep in. Kind of like Marathon. Marathon I don't think is going to do particularly well. We saw how Concord did here recently. I don't think Bungie's Marathon will do well either. I might be wrong. Apparently they're getting some decent feedback from some Tarkov players, but we'll see how that works. But I'm very surprised that they're still pushing this out. They had a lot of projects apparently they were working on, and I guess this is one of them. It says the game is made almost entirely by NetEase, formerly of Diablo Immortal. You guys can remember how bad that went. Based on a very old investment deal with Bungie. So this is not necessarily just Bungie's development. This is an investment deal they had going on. So I don't think Bungie's got a lot to do with it right now. It says very few Bungie employees have worked on the game. NetEase was reportedly not wild about Bungie selling to Sony. So yeah, I'm sure they weren't too happy about it, but they don't really have much of a choice. So I'm not sure what that investment deal entailed, but yeah, apparently NetEase was not very happy about them selling the IP to Sony, which, it is what it is. They can't really do anything about it if they're just a third-party developer, which is what, it sounds like. Now, it says Destiny Rising is a prequel to Destiny 1 and will not be some sort of way to play Destiny 2 on mobile. I think had they actually made a way to play Destiny 2 on mobile, it probably would have been a lot cooler. I'm going to be completely honest to you. Not only do I not have any interest in playing a mobile game, I also typically hate prequels. And I'm not just talking about video games, I'm also talking about like shows and movies. Very rarely have I seen a prequel that I'm interested in that I like. One thing that I really hate doing is going through a story, seeing the characters develop into what they're going to be, becoming heroes, seeing them develop, and then going through stories for, in this case, a 10-year story with our Guardian in the Light and Dark saga, seeing how far we've come, and then doing a prequel where we go back and we realize that no matter what happens in this prequel, our characters or the characters that we're following are not going to be, in the same spot they were at the end of what we're used to. No matter how let's take Big Bang Theory for example, and young Sheldon. I watched Big Bang Theory, and it took pretty much the entire how many seasons, like 12 seasons, for Sheldon to basically stop acting like a monstrous ass. And even then, on the last episode, granted he made a great speech, but he was still a monstrous douchebag. And this is the end of his journey. Basically, this is him getting the Nobel Prize. I really had no desire to go back and watch Sheldon basically be an ass as a child, knowing that no matter how far this show goes, he's still going to be an asshole when the show is over. Like, he's not going to make any meaningful progress. Or if he does, that just means that he was that much worse at the beginning of the show. Now, luckily, the show had a lot of other characters in it that were much more loved, and that the story, in my opinion, the story was more about. I liked Georgie. I loved the dad. I hated the mother, and I hated Sheldon, I'll be honest. But Georgie, in my opinion, took over the show. He was a star of it. But that's just what it feels like to me. I got no desire to go back in Destiny 1's history, the prequel, and play as characters that I don't really care about. I spent 10 years playing as my character, the Guardian. I got no desire to play as Shaxx or Mara or Ikora, anybody like that. Now, new people to the IP might be fine doing that. So new players might be okay doing that. But like I said, I am not whatsoever. And I just realized that my camera has not been on this whole time. Hold on now. There we go. Now my camera's back on. I just realized I just got this whole new camera, spent all the money, and I forgot to turn it even on. But so I'm still gotta clear my throat every once in a while. I'm not sick anymore, but I do still gotta get that crap out every once in a while. So yeah, the fact that this is a mobile game and a prequel is it's compounded negative points to me. But we're continuing with the article. It says there are reports that while it mirrors Destiny gameplay, it is a third-person shooter, not first-person, so I'm not quite sure how those two statements go together, and I do wonder if it is not in fact an FPS, but that's what GamePost says, and I can't confirm otherwise. It could be something along the lines of Warframe. It's a third-person shooter, and it works. Now, again, I don't know how it would work in a mobile game, but that's what I'm thinking when I see third-person shooter gameplay. My mind immediately goes to Warframe. And we got a few more points here. It says the game is hero-focused, so it's a hero shooter, basically, where you play as both characters from Destiny's history, and during an older era, it says no characters are listed, but ones like Zavala, Ikora, Shaxx would be a safe bet, plus some new ones. One report says it might be in the series' Warlord era. Now, that could be an interesting time, because that's when a lot of light bearers were frankly evil. So that could be an interesting setting, but again, I think that's something that should have been done at the beginning of Destiny. It's not something I'm interested in going and taking a look at now. Now, if we were to say do like a time travel thing, and keep in mind I'm not usually too into time travel, period. I think it's usually kind of cheap, but with Destiny, considering everything going on, I think it could work. I like how they did the story of Saint 14. I like that the Vex are, innate time travelers, so this could work. Obviously, we couldn't change too much stuff in the past, but, I mean, this could work, taking our current character and, tossing them in an alternate dimension, which we know is possible thanks to the stranger, Elsie Bray. So, yeah, tossing our Guardian back in that era would be kind of cool. But taking just a random Guardian from an era, I don't think is going to work, especially since our Guardian has got all these powers down that basically didn't exist by then. It'd be a huge downgrade. There's no real way to do that. You can't take our stasis and strand abilities, send us back in time, and say, hey, you got these abilities still. No, we earned those in this era. They're not going to exist back then. So, again, just one more reason I just don't like going back in time and doing prequels. It says the game reportedly has missions, strikes, and possibly even a raid, but this has been tough to implement given that mobile play time sessions are supposed to be pretty short to keep tiny attention spans in place. I'm not sure if PvP is involved here. I'm not sure they would do it. It'd probably be something like a Raid Shadow Legend situations. That's all I can think of as far as how they would potentially work any of this. Like, I don't know how they're going to do third-person shooter on mobile. I'm thinking it's going to be more like a turn-based thing. Now, that could be interesting, a turn-based game for Destiny, but again, I'm just not interested for mobile. Now, we did like an app for Destiny 2 that had turn-based characters and even our character. That could be interesting, some kind of mobile game where you could actually earn prizes or weapons and armor for your actual Destiny 2 account. I think that could be kind of cool, but not separate. It says there is some sort of narrative attached to this, which is part of Bungie's contribution, not NetEase's. So I was actually wondering if anything that happened in this was going to be canon or not. It sounded like the only real value this might have, since it's coming from Bungie as a narrative, which could give us some story, some canon information, some canon storytelling. But past that, I mean, if it's only locked in there, I think it's going to be another negative for Bungie. If they're locking some narrative information, some narrative story behind a mobile game, I think it's going to be another hit for the company. And I say hit as in a bad way. It's going to be a ding against them. It says, I've heard that the closet parallel here is absolutely NetEase's Diablo Immortal game, a game that was lambasted by core Diablo fans, but has gone on to be a money-making hit, producing frequent new content. It's unclear how the game will be monetized, and if, like Diablo Immortal, it will have pay-to-win mechanic purchases. More than likely will. That's the only reason to have a mobile game, especially with NetEase, is to have pay-to-win mechanics. If you're doing a game like this and it is free-to-play, it's going to have pay-to-win mechanics. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The target audience is not Western Destiny 2 players, and may not even be existing Destiny players at all. I've been told this is 100% aimed at the Asian market, where invasive microtransactions are more than commonplace and less poorly received. So that makes a lot more sense. So if you've seen anything about the gaming industry here recently, or about a lot of industries in general, it looks like this game is aimed at China. Now, If I'm not mistaken, though, China actually just cracked down on a lot of microtransactions in their games, so I'm not really sure who this is being sold for. Now, that crackdown has been recent. I think that's been like the last year or so, how they were cracking down on microtransactions. They can only sell so much, so this being developed for so long, I think this was developed before China started cracking down on that, before their economy kind of started to crash, and before all the other things going on started happening. So this is going to be, this game is very precariously placed. I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's going to be, one, rejected by the core audience, and then two, the audience that it was made for is basically no longer going to be able to play it, or they're not going to be able to monetize it the way that they wanted to. I think this game is being set up to fail. But, I mean, I think the fact that it's a mobile game to begin with is set up to fail, but that's just me. There's no real clue when this is going to launch, despite being in the works for years. Many are surprised it hasn't been teased yet. My theory is that maybe it's ready, but Bungie does not want to pull a Diablo Immortal and announce that mobile game fans will be skeptical of when the base game is in a rough state and player morale is low. I don't think announcing this when, well, I take it back. If they announce this when the game is in a good spot, then yeah, it probably would be accepted a lot better. If the game was, you know, an amazing spot, people were loving what's in there, then they probably would accept this a lot more. So that probably is a smart decision as far as financial, or, you know, company goes, you know, financial wise, to go ahead and hold off on that, but I still think it's shitty. Supposedly Bungie will not really be heavily involved in the marketing, and most of that will be on NetEase. Bungie was content to let NetEase do whatever they wanted with the game. Presently, Sony has essentially done nothing with it. Has essentially nothing to do with it, though obviously would prefer to be in the portfolio. So basically, Bungie just made this deal. My guess is that they were just paid for the IP to make this game. They got some input on it, but they basically got the money. They were like, just do what you want with the game. Again, I don't think that's necessarily smart, especially considering how the state of the game is right now, how players are still leaving the game, how the studio is basically in shambles right now, how their future is so uncertain. I think that was, all this is a perfect storm to make this game not work. I don't think it was going to do very well to begin with, but I think a lot of poor decisions were made here, but I also think this is just a very quick cash grab for Bungie. I think, considering how much they've had to lay out people here recently and how strapped they were for cash thanks to their CEOs, they basically did whatever they could to just rake in a few extra bucks, and, you know, hey, selling your IP or giving permission to use it to a studio to make a mobile game you don't got to worry about. Is essentially, hey, you can use this IP, give us some money, and then, you know, hey, hit us up on the back end too with some residuals. And I mean, that's an easy, financially, that's an easy win for Bungie. But like I said, I don't know how this is going to work with the fans in the long term. So either way, that's what's going on with the current Destiny 2 mobile game. Again, I do not care about this whatsoever, but we're going to be hearing a lot more about it here soon, I'm sure. Don't know when they're going to announce this thing. I mean, I'll probably take a look at it just to see just how bad it is, but it's probably going to be just as bad as Diablo Immortal. It's going to be monetized out of hell. It's going to be one of those situations where you can probably buy heroes. You know, you can buy your Shaxx or buy your Zavala, and the more money you put in, the higher or the more gear you can get. It's going to be it's going to be a pay to win. It's going to be a pay to win, especially for an Asian market. But like I said, considering that China's just cracked down on that recently, that wasn't a thing when they did this deal. So China's only recently cracked down. I got to look up that information again. But I think they cracked down on how much is either how much they can a company can charge for microtransactions, or how often they can do it. I got to double check that one. But that was a huge thing just came out in China here recently. So either way, I will go ahead and check that out later. And that's going to do it for today for this video. So thank you for coming by. If you like what we're doing, please leave a like on the video. If you love what we're doing, please sub to the channel. And I will see you all on the next video.